Hello YouTube, this is Douglas, and today I want to showcase the fracture physics in my custom game engine. In my engine, the entire world is made out of voxels, tiny little totally editable cubes. Objects made of voxels can be simulated using realistic physics, and with the new fracturing code, they can crack and break apart when they collide. The system is based on the material properties of the objects involved and the strength of a collision. When a collision occurs, voxels are deleted to form cracks in the objects, and the crack pattern is fully customizable and selected at runtime, which means that different materials can break apart in different ways. For example, rocks can have a chunky feeling, while ice shatters into shards. There are two parts to my fracturing system: fracture event generation and fracture pattern application. Let's go over each of these in turn. To start out, we need to know where and when cracks should happen on an object. And to know that, we need to understand how much impulse is being applied to objects when they touch. So naturally, this is something that happens inside of the rigid body solver. The rigid body solver is another component of my engine, and it's responsible for generating contact points and then applying impulses to keep objects apart. And so this allows for creating stacks of objects and boxes sliding across the ground and other things you'd associate with a physics simulation. What we want to find is points where the impulse being applied is too large. And so for this first step, we loop over every contact point and look at the materials for the voxels at the contact point. If the impulse exceeds a threshold, then we generate a fracture event. It's very important here that we consider impulse and not force. Otherwise, you wind up with a simulation that's time dependent. To see what I mean, imagine a 1 kilogram ball bouncing off of a wall. Let's say that this ball has initial velocity of 2 meters per second to the right, and final velocity 2 meters per second to the left. That means we have a net change in momentum, or an impulse, of 4 Newton seconds. Now, in my rigid body simulation, collisions always happen during a single tick. So if our simulation is running at a speed of 10 milliseconds per tick, the force experienced by this ball is 4 Newton seconds divided by 0.01 seconds, or 400 newtons. If instead our simulation is running at 5 milliseconds per tick, twice as fast, then the force is 4 Newton seconds divided by 0.005, or 800 newtons. The impulse stays constant, the force does not. And this is very bad, because if we have one player whose game is running at 30 FPS, things might happen completely differently than a player whose game is running at 60 FPS. What I find interesting about this, though, is that in real life, it is the maximum force. Objects typically follow some sort of stress-strain curve where they deform and then break. But I'm not simulating deformation, so I can't use maximum force. Now back to voxels. So we've found contact points where the impulse is too high, and we raise fracture events there which help us know later on where to put cracks. One other important thing that has to happen is we need to reduce the impulse that gets applied at these contact points, so that the objects still have some velocity at the beginning of the next game tick. And this ensures that, for example, a rock continues to fly through a window after hitting it for the first time. It's a subtle effect, but I think this momentum preservation is really what makes or breaks the realism here. Before we move on, a quick word about today's sponsor, CodeCrafters. CodeCrafters is an educational website built by experienced developers for experienced developers. They offer in-depth projects that teach you how to build real-world software. Their Shell, HTTP server, and Redis projects are among the most popular right now, and the best developers are using them to learn Rust, Go, or C++. If that's of interest to you and you'd like to support the channel, then use the link in the description to try CodeCrafters for free today. With that, we're ready to move on to fracture pattern application. What we want is to split objects up into a bunch of small pieces when they have fracture events. Initially, I had some complicated schemes for doing this, involving planning out how the fracture pattern would look, labeling the different pieces, and then copying the objects into smaller volumes. But then I realized there was a much simpler way. You see, my codebase already has another module that I like to call the neighborhood disconnector. And this is responsible for spawning new rigid bodies whenever voxels get disconnected from the main grid. So for example, if you go up to a tree and break its base, the tree falls down, becoming its own object. In other words, the neighborhood disconnector prevents voxels from floating. So to do fracturing, all we really need to do is draw a series of cracks around each impact point by setting the appropriate voxels to empty. The existing physics code will take care of all the rest, spawning new rigid bodies for the cracked sections. This keeps things really modular, and it was also the most performant option that I tried, since the neighborhood disconnector has to run anyway. The one remaining question is, how do we generate those crack patterns in a way that looks good? There are a lot of different options here. It starts to get more toward the art side of things, and I explored some procedural techniques, including using whirly noise and also just cutting up space by slicing it with multiple planes. The most important thing to me, though, was to make this customizable. I want modders and fellow game devs to be able to define their own fracture patterns to suit their needs. To that end, I made it so that the user could provide a Boolean voxel value, where true voxels mean delete and false voxels mean keep, and this essentially acts as a model for the fracture pattern. I'm pretty proud of how it came out, so we'll do a brief code walk here. This file is where materials are defined in my engine, and each material can be associated with a fracture table. What this is basically a list of fracture patterns, and the engine will select an appropriate fracture pattern from the table based upon the impulse strength and also using some randomness. To create a fracture table, you need to provide fracture patterns, and these are the actual models that define how cracks form. Instances of this class are initialized using a Boolean voxel value, like I was talking about earlier, and then internally this class generates 6 copies of the crack pattern, one for each cardinal direction, up, down, left, right, back, front, and these are cached for quick use by the engine later. To make it even easier to construct fracture patterns, I also have this stock fracture patterns class with some helper methods for generating patterns from planes and whirly noise and the like. The best part is that all of this is included in the C# public API and is exposed to developers down the line. With fracturing finished, I'm continuing to work on other physics-related parts of the engine. One big thing I just did was expose the collision detector to C# as well, and with those C# bindings, I can now prevent players from placing voxels on top of physics objects. So in the past, this was a very easy way to just break the game, is you could place a block down right on top of an object and everything would freak out. But now, if there's an object in the way, right-clicking just doesn't do anything. Also with the collision detector, I've begun to develop a character controller. Soon this will allow you to walk around the scene and actually interact with the terrain, rather than the player just being a floating camera. Stay tuned for more updates on this, and if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you've got any questions. I always love talking to you guys down below. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.